Questions for guys on the panel? Les, can you tell us what the wash-up is with the John DuPont report on the tyres? Is there any information you can share?
You just had to bring this up, didn't you? I think it's an interesting thing, and a very, very important thing for the industry. And so, because it's been identified that tyres have been a very hot and controversial issue within the operation of PBS vehicles. We completed our review in terms of the different tyre management options for PBS vehicles and submitted our proposal to the ministers. They are meeting on the 25th of May, so a couple of weeks' time. Our proposal is to move away from the current system, which specifies different tyres for PBS vehicles, and we are proposing that the generic tyres should be used in PBS assessments, which would mean that PBS vehicles are assessed with a tyre, but then operators will have the flexibility to use any tyre from the market. Probably that's the quick summary where we are. The jurisdictions have supported this proposal, and most of the industry supported it, all the different stakeholders. So I think it's going to be a very beneficial new system for the industry in general.
All right, thank you. Shane, EBS, how does Toll use that data in there?
Any data that we have produced within our trucks, especially EBS, we don't assess that data unless it's based on an exception. So if we get a report that says that a vehicle was involved in an incident, and through our MT data system, because our MT data records harsh braking, we will then download through our fleet department the EBS data. So we don't have the luxury of a system that Glenn just produced, not at this stage anyway. But that's pretty much how we get the data, is we'll get it downloaded, assess it, if the incidents warrant that.
Les, just one more question. Network access, how is that progressing?
That's obviously, it is and it has been a very, very difficult issue for high productivity vehicles, and I'm not just talking about PBS vehicles, but also HML and more innovative type of combinations. We are putting lots of resources into our cooperation with the local governments. Obviously, under the National Heavy Vehicle Law, we cannot issue any access permit without a consent. The road managers and the road authorities who have the power to provide that consent. So we are doing lots of training and education with those stakeholders. What's important that we are developing a number of PBS notices, so PBS level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 combinations, and hopefully those notices will be issued by July this year, which will give a much bigger certainty to operators to run PBS combinations.
Thank you. Just one for Glenn. How accessible is the near-miss data from the EBS systems to help improve the black spots and roundabouts in the network?
At the moment, it's still early days of gathering this data. There's some that's been around for about 12, 18 months, so we're hotspotting at the moment. The logging industry is definitely using it. There's quite a few in the logging industry, and because they're obviously on one of the, if not the worst roads in Australia, and it's not always their fault that they roll a trailer because the roads are so poor and poorly looked after. So they're using that at the moment to go back to Victoria Logging and also New South Wales Forestry and to improve the design of that, or the condition of those roads, and wet them down more often and grade them more often. And there is hotspots. We have managed to do that. In the metropolitan space, I think nearly every roundabout in Australia is a danger rollover point for a longer trailer, and so forth. So the data is accessible. It's just still being collated, and yeah, I often get asked by regulators and also fleet operators to investigate an incident, a report. So I do that manually through what we call an operating data report, and we can generally find out what happened and what the cause was. And yeah, and it's not always the driver's fault. It's very much environmental as well. So that can be kind of used as evidence when required, and so forth. Yep.
Thanks, Glenn. Probably got a couple of minutes to go, so if anyone's got any questions for the panel.
I've got a question for the audience, if I may. I'm going to take the moment to ask all operators in the room, if I may ask you to put your hand up. If you just put your hand up for operators that are in the room, please. Come on, Lance. There's not many here. Tanker manufacturers. Okay. Who knows what the VSG 25 standard bulletin is? Put your hand up if you know what it is. So, okay. So there was a standard written after EBS mandate, which I helped, and Les was also part of, and Peter Austin. And it came out as what's the rules behind electronic braking systems, electronic brake technology when you have a truck, a trailer, or a towing unit, which is also a trailer obviously as well, in regards to the legal requirements of an operator when they plug in one of these new technology trailers. And it's very grey, and it's something that we need to look at, because there's many, many operators, especially rental fleets, that are very confused about what they can and can't do. So effectively what it says is if you have an old truck pre-certain vintage of ADR and it does not have a socket on the back for power supply to the trailer, you need not connect the trailer. That is not right, and Les knows my feelings on this, and I want to see some changes on it, because the National Heavy Vehicle Law and the ADR of trailer braking systems is very clear. It must be operational and it must be functioning, and so it can't function if it's not plugged in. So I want to see some changes on that. If you've got some concerns around that, let's work together on this in a proactive way, but I'd like to see some rewording changes, Les, on that. You know that. It's very important. Rental fleets are now putting out public statements to the public that if you pick up my new trailer and it's EBS on it and you have an old truck, we're not taking the responsibility. But they still do, because we have the chain of responsibility. And in the tanker fleet, you can imagine if we have an ammonium nitrate tanker or an aviation tanker on an old truck and we have a serious incident, somebody's going to, it's not good enough. So I just want to raise that. If you don't know what it means, come and see me at the show. If you'd like to make more information on it, and let's work on this, Les, and let's get a change to this, because it's causing a lot of pain in the industry and a lot of uncertainty.
Okay, thanks very much. If there's no questions, thank the presenters for their time and presentation, please.